Hello, and welcome to a tutorial. Now, I said I would do more tutorials as the channel grew, and it's over twice the size since I last said that, so it's probably time that I did one. And one that I've had a few requests for, people seem interested on, and there's not that much out there, is Andy the North's FIRS, specifically the newer versions of it. So let's do that. Let's get started with FIRS. So let's get started right at the beginning, which is clicking on this button, New Graph Settings. You see this is a new download of the game, so I don't have any new graphs here. Then click this button, Check Online Content, which is a portal to a magical world, which includes many things, including, of course, FIRS. Now, if you just type FIRS into the search there, you will see lots and lots of things. So the one you actually want is FIRS Industry Replacement Set 4. So that is the set. So there we go. So we could just download that, but you will not have a good time if you just download that. So one of the problems many people run into with FIRS is the vehicles that are in the base game don't actually support all of the cargoes that FIRS adds. So you'll also need a vehicle set. Obviously, I am going to suggest immediately that you just type in Timberwolf and you download all of those, because that will give you FIRS compatible vehicles. But there are a few others out there. So if you want a kind of a very base game-like experience, you want to take sort of a small step into using an industry set, but you don't want to sort of radically change your vehicles or the way the game works, there are OpenGFX Plus sets. So that gives you trains and road vehicles and things which are very much like the base game, but they support the FIRS cargoes. There's also Andy's own sets, and those are Iron Horse 2 for trains, and if we're adding that, we should add Termite as well, which is the rails. There is Roadhog, which is the road vehicles, so there we go, so that adds that. There is Fish, which is the ships, and I actually like Fish 2, Squid Ate FISH, so I'm going to add that. Now, there's not currently an aircraft set that Andy's made or that I've made. So we use either from World Airliners or maybe AV 9.8. So pick a set to support the FIRS cargoes as well, so you can refit your aircraft to those. And now, finally, there are stations, which are not essential, but it's nice to kind of have stations which fit. So you've seen me possibly in my main videos use ISR, Industrial Stations Renewal. But there's also chips, so let's download chips 2, which is the latest version. So I'm going to download those, and wait for those to arrive, and then we can just add them all here. Now, we could go straight to apply changes and play the game, but there's one little thing I want to mention here, which is FIRS has quite a few parameters, and you'll find this actually with a lot of sets that as you click on them, this parameters button will enable. It lets you change things that are part of the new graph. You sort of tweak the behavior and modify it. FIRS has a very important one, which is this setting economy. Now, some people ask me, they say, you've got all these economies, all these industries in your game, in your Blue & Co game, that I don't have in my game, and that's because you can select different economies. So you've got 3 basic economies, one for temperate, one for Arctic, one for tropic. You have Steeltown, which is complicated metal-based economy, and then in a hot country, which is complicated being in a hot country-based economy. But we'll start with temperate basics, show you the basics, as it were, in a basic economy. There's also these other settings here, but I'm not going to go too much into those because those make more sense once you've sort of played around a bit. You've sort of had some experience, and that's general philosophy that I have is feel free to just play around with things. OpenTTD is not going to suddenly blow up or destroy itself just because you added a few new graphs or built some things or whatever. So it's occasionally see lots of people question. They say, "What happens if I do this thing, which I could just try it for myself?" And they say, well, just try it. I'm the kind of person who will never ask a question like that. I might ask a question like, I tried connecting something to a steel mill and now my dog is on fire. How do I put my dog out and why did this happen? but should feel free to experiment. So anyway, looking at the map, the first difference you might notice with FIRS is this new industry, but also with the Yoda symbol, but also that there's a lot more industries than the base game, more types of industries, and that some are missing. There's no power station, for example. So if we were to try our sort of traditional OpenTTD game, we're going to connect a coal mine to something. What would we connect it to? Well, this is actually connected to a steel mill. And there's only this one thing. So let's link to the small map. So the steel mill's down here. So let's go building some tracks. Let's build a track across here. Oh, not lower. Pause. Let's unpause the game. These are always, the tutorials are about as slick as the main series. We deal very much in knowing exactly how to play the game to the point where we never, ever get anything wrong. So there we go. So this come up to the coal mine here. And just bring that up to the same level. And let's build a little station. So we've got the chip stations here. And these just match. They're quite nice, sort of simple stations. They match nicely with the FIRS sprites. Well, that's actually an iron ore mine. I will want that, but let's bring our things all the way down here. They got confused by the industries. And let's build a station here. And so this is where our steel mill will go. And so we're just going to bring that across there. There we go. And let's do a little bit of double track section as well. Not too big, just enough to run an extra train on if we want. So signal it with one-way path signals. Let's build a train. So there's something important to notice here as I go through this. Lots of trains here, and I think maybe it's Diablo. This looks okay. In that, unlike the base game wagons, where you have sort of a coal wagon, and then you have an iron ore wagon, and then you have sort of a livestock wagon, here we've just got these things like open wagon and bolster wagon. And this you'll find in a lot of sets, like compared to sort of the base game vehicles. The idea is you build these sort of generic wagons, and then you refit them. They use this button here. So I'm going to refit this to coal. 210 tons, well, actually no, that coal mine doesn't produce very much, so I can just build little small trains. Well, there we go, 120 tons. And so that's going to go there. We'll make that full load. And then it's going to go down here to the steel mill. I'm going to clone that as well. And let's have two of them. Some of those go to do their sort of train leafing. And let's just build a little bit more double track here. And so let's let that load up and go to the mill. And there we go. So we need a bit more money as well. Lots of loan. We'll just borrow money. This is a tutorial. It's fine. So I'm going to let that run across here. That from sort of down to here. And see if it makes any money. Possibly, possibly not. So that comes down to the coal mine. From the coal mine to the steel mill, unloads. That makes a bit of money, but if you're used to the base game, you're used to coal being sort of this huge money spinner. That just more or less infinite money instantly. Whereas in this, it's not. So there's a thing to note with FIRS, a very important thing to note, which is the cargo payment rates are all very different. So if we look at coal, look at it's not sort of in the hundreds, which I think the base game is. It's only sort of about £85, but it's also very flat. Like, we don't suffer if we deliver coal in a slower vehicle. In fact, within 100 days, it doesn't matter the slightest. It still pays the same as if we had transported it instantly. It does sort of drift off after that point, but that's worth noting with FIRS, is this sort of slow bulk cargo transport is just as effective as sort of zooming it across the map quickly with fast trains. So that's going. Now, you'll notice that although I transported 120 tons of coal there, it only made 30 tons of steel. This is another new FIRS change. So if I did this to a base game steel mill, if I transported iron ore to it, or a base game factory, if I transported steel to it, it would produce kind of 1 for 1. as much would have come out as gone in. But the FIRS, there's a key in this. For maximum production rate, supply all required cargoes. And for these FIRS secondary industries, if you want to actually get lots of steel out of this steel mill, we need to supply all 3 of these to make it produce in a 1-for-1 ratio. So that was why I was not too upset about accidentally building near this iron ore mine, because I need to transport iron ore as well. So I'm going to do that and not ignore the new vehicles. That they have no respect. We're trying to learn things here. Right, okay, so let's just build a bridge over here and link that up to there. And then this can come in here. Now, this also probably would benefit from having multiple tracks. So this is not a very, very good station, because what can happen here is this will be able to come up with trains. So I'm just going to build one. Not going to need to worry about making this really, really efficient, because this is just... So let's refit this, and always remember to refit. So this is going to go here, and then going to go down to the steel mill. So that's iron ore. And then there's one other cargo. So you see this with FIRS. Industries have lots and lots of input cargoes. And this one is relatively simple. It's only got 3, but some of them you'll see sort of 4. And then, the chains that you get to build up will be quite complex. So now we need scrap metal. So let's look at scrap metal. Scrap metal comes from a scrapyard. So let's find the nearest scrapyard. The something with scrapyards is their production is based on the production of the nearby town, production population. So scrapyards near larger towns will do better. Now let's build some road stops. There's something, and I'm going to use road vehicles for this, because there's something important that I should mention about road vehicles in let's say a road hog, but actually just generally with road vehicle sets in general. But let's build this here. So if you're used to playing the base game, then you've not really dabbled with other road vehicle sets. You might sort of be used to building these, sort of end on road vehicle stops. And so I'd build one there and say, let's go find a road vehicle which can take... We have scrap metal. So what you can do here is you can click scrap metal here. This will show us all the vehicles which take scrap metal. So we have these dump trucks. We'll just have these open trucks. They take 30 tons of scrap metal both, so let's build this honester dump truck. Now, if I were to send this to this road stop, it would say, no, you can't do that. And what's going on there? Well, this is because some road vehicles in add-on sets are articulated, and they have the main unit and they have a trailer. And one thing with OpenTTD is vehicles which are articulated can't go to this sort of end-on stop. They can only go to these drive-through road stops. So I'm going to set this to go to the drive-through road stop. Then that will work out fine. And now I need to refit it as well. So refit it to carry scrap metal. There we go. And I can just remove that now, because we don't need that. It's served its purpose. It's illustrated its point. Now, we have 700 odd tons of scrap metal, so we need quite a lot of vehicles. Let's get some more loan and build lots of vehicles. Some probably 15 to start with. Let's set those going. So you're going to let us bed in for a bit. So you can now see that the steel production massively increased as soon as we started supplying scrap metal. It jumped up 396 tons. That's now very respectable. So we could take that to places. So we could take that now to a metal workshop. And so this is just first. This is fairly standard gameplay from this point on. And so we've got a metal workshop down here. Let's build a little sort of point-to-point train station. And so they're going to build another asphalt platform here. I'm just going to my usual caution. I'm going to avoid building any level crossings, because you can get vehicle crashes when you have those. So let's build these cobble platforms here. In fact, what we're going to do is actually make this quite long. and build some nice long trains because there's lots and lots of cargo being produced. So it's fine to have a nice long train if you've got lots of cargo. So let's bring this up here. Maybe not quite that far. So you're going to do that. Then you're going to build a little section of double track so the two trains can pass each other. So make sure that section is actually long enough as well. So 7 tiles there. So 7 tiles there. So my station's 7 tiles long. And then I'm going to build that. I'm going to build 7 tile trains. And I need a nice big freight train. So this 480 lemon. Ooh, quite expensive. And let's do that. So steel, again, I can do this steel here. So there we go. It's bolster wagons and bulkhead flat wagons. Let's have these bulkhead flat wagons. So there we go. So that'll be 6.8 tiles long. And so yes, so total cargo it already carries steel. So I'm going to set it here to go and get some steel, and I'm going to tell it to go into the stamp and plate. We're going to have 2 of, well, if I had some money, I'll have 2 of those. So there we go. So this is no little network, and with FIRS, it's a good idea to try to complete chains. So let's go back to those cargo payment rates, the one for coal. We'd also have the other things we're transporting. So iron ore pays a little more, but not so much more. Scrap metal pays a bit more, so scrap metal is a little bit better. And then the steel. Steel pays a lot more, although we have to deliver it quickly. It actually starts falling off quite a bit. And so let's see how that goes. So I'm waiting for that train to fill up. This is all slowed down a bit, so maybe the long train wasn't such a good idea. Let's see, this is all stacking up, so we can probably have lots more scrap metal vehicles. And there we go, a few more of those. And that goes down there, so this with lots of steel on it should make quite a bit of money when it unloads. Take a little while to unload, and 12,000 for that little trip, so that's all quite good. So that's a basic FIRS setup. But this is not all. So let's go back to this coal mine. This coal mine is only producing 135 tons of coal. Now, coal mines and things in FIRS and primary industries. In the base game, you may be used to this idea that if you give good service to an industry, it increases its production, and if you give bad service, it decreases, maybe even disappears off the map. FIRS has a slightly more complicated mechanic, and you can actually see this down here. It says for enhanced production, deliver 16 crates of supplies, and for gung-ho production, deliver 80 crates. So we can actually increase the production of our primary industries in FIRS. And to do that, we need to bring engineering supplies. So if I display the chain here, you can see there is an engineering supplies, which come from a port, in this case. So let's just check. So yes, so we got in the metal workshop. So we need to find now, if we go back to the cargo chains, and let's let the cargo engineering supplies linked to small boats. So we need to find a port, and there is a port down here. The port requires goods, coal and food, and it also produces engineering supplies. 207 crates of those. So what we can do now is just build a train line that comes out of there. So let's build a sort of simple little train line coming out of the port. As I said, we don't just take this up to the coal mine. This can be a quick and dirty build. While I do that, we'll leave behind the port. And there we go. So where am I? There we go. So we want to come up sort of around here, I guess. And that would be as good a place as it is to pop up, build a bridge over there. And there we go. The build now. And up that goes there. So that I should talk about with these tutorials, and with the sort of kind of, nobody told me, but I kind of inferred from sort of the behavioural things which happened is that there's actually the first tutorial I did, there was quite a gap, I guess, in the style in between that and the mainline series, which is maybe not, a terrible thing. It's a tutorial. You want to learn useful things, whereas the mainline series that I have going at the time of recording, which is 1815 start, is much more sort of a gentle, just play the game and see what happens and sort of narrate it. But people got a bit of a shock. They build this engineering supplies train, which is no trains carry steel. So this is why this happens. We need to go back to actually getting trains, and I'm not going to have anything too heavy. So I'm going to maybe have another Diablo, or maybe not. Another Diablo when my finances allow. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to have engineering supplies. So engineering supplies can go in a box van. And there we go. We won't have too many of those. Slightly fewer, because we only need to carry sort of 80 or so to the coal mine. So I'm going to not go overboard with those. And so that needs to go to the colliery. And here we come into our first issue with FIRS setups, is this needs to go to the colliery to offload engineering supplies. But the production will increase when we send engineering supplies, which means we will want more trains. But if we have more trains, they will sit there loading. And it could be that a train is busy loading while we're trying to send engineering supplies. So actually, you want a separate platform for your load and unload. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down control. I'm going to hold down the control key. And that brings up this dialog, which says join station. And you can see there, if I click Grinning Door Colliery, it's highlighting that. So when I do that, that doesn't become a new station. That just joins to the existing station. And so now I could just not have that track, and this would be fine. And this would all be acceptable. And so, yes, so this would go up here, and then I just need that to come back down there. So I just need another bridge, and I could totally ignore this, but this is one way of doing things. So you could do things like this in your games, your sort of FIRS games, and let's have that wait there just in case. And that will be fine. But it's very easy for trains to end up on the wrong track. So what we're going to do is click this button here, which is Waypoints. And I'm going to put in a waypoint here. And so I'm going to rename this one to Engineering Supplies. I'm going to rename this one to Coal. And now, this train is going to go via engineering supplies and offload them. These trains, these coal trains, and these are going to go via the coal waypoint. But I'm just going to move the depot the other side of that waypoint. And that stops trains coming out the depot and trying to go the wrong way. So there we go. So that's good. Let's send the engineering supplies train going. Lovely. And we need another one, which goes to the iron ore mine. And so I'm going to do that. So I'm going to talk more about sort of that lovely disconnect, which, let's say, let's now update this. So this is going to be the iron ore. And there we go. Let me disconnect that I was talking about with the main series. So if you may have noticed the sort of occasional loss of what thread I'm on and general things like that, that happens all the time in the mainline series. It's not as focused as the tutorials. Gosh, no, because this is just mostly a sort of casual, pleasant playthrough. It's not a sort of highly sophisticated, ultra well-planned thing. It's just I just played the game and relax, and people enjoy it. And they kind of want to warn you in this tutorial. Oh, that's going to have to go round there. That this is what you're getting into when you click that subscribe button. The sort of pleasantly engaging silliness. So while we do add sort of tips and things, and a train is lost. This is very much what happens in my series. So train 6 is lost, and train 6, probably the reason it's lost is that it can't get to that engineering splice. So we've probably made a failing in our route. Ah, yes. There we go. Missing little bit of diagonal. That's a tip. While that's entirely accidental, that's a useful thing. When you see that the train is lost, that's usually the thing to do, is to go looking and see what could have gone wrong. So anyway, so we have this now, which is our sort of route into this. So I need to double track this just to give the trains a little bit more opportunity to space themselves out. And how does that work? So oh yes, that needs to go there. So because we're going to signal this now, this means the waypoint is on the wrong track, but waypoints, you can just drag them across multiple tracks. So that you don't have to worry too much about getting your waypoint exactly the right track, or especially if you have lots of parallel tracks. So let's do this now. Let's bring this out here. And so we're going to do that. Let's also remove that, because that's not necessary. So there we go. So that's going to come around there. And then this, we're going to build a little sort of slightly tight junction around here. And that's going to bring trains around there. And this is not the ideal. This is not the most efficient way of doing things that it is possible to do. But I want to illustrate FIRS, not the... So this one is going to go to a different place. This is going to go via the iron ore mines engineering supplies load up. And then it's going to go to there. This one, did I set this to go? No, this also needs to go via the iron ore. Oh, there we go. So we can clone that train as well. Off that goes. And off this goes. So these are now checking engineering supplies. So this is unloaded some engineering supplies. You can see this is now at enhanced. So, and you already see this, the small amount of time it was enhanced, it's already producing more coal. And so we can have a few more trains like this. And these will go after the coal mine there. And so anyway, I left behind a topic about the tutorials. And I illustrate best, much like what is the most annoying place to leave something behind? Well, I think the most annoying situation to leave something behind in all of human history would be Neil Armstrong forgetting his keys on the moon. Just imagine that. You're on your way home, you're fine, you're happy, you've been to the moon, it's been an excellent day out. Maybe you think, it could do with a few amusements, maybe a shop or something. But on your way back, you get home, you reach in your pocket, and you go, oh no! Except you're Neil Armstrong, and you realise, where did I last... Oh, I put them down when I was on the moon. That would be the most annoying place to leave something. Perhaps the second most annoying place to leave something is a train on your main line. Look at that. Look at that perfect segue. That is the kind of thing that people come to the main channel for. It's those perfect segues from nonsense story into actual useful tip. So there's one last thing to show you with FIRS for temperate basic, which is what happens if we have lots and lots and lots of trains. So let's do that. Let's break our networks. So I'm just going to pop a little depot up here. Oh yes, let's make sure that trains can actually reach it. And I'm going to clone this train lots and lots and lots of times. If I have the money to do it. Lots and lots and lots of times. So that's going to come up here. And then everything is going to go all horribly wrong. That's the coal train. It's waiting for the coal train. So So this slightly inefficient main line that I built, this is going to come up here. And this is going to come up here. And they're actually doing okay for now. But let's put a few more signals in so I can start showing you what might go wrong. So these trains are starting to load. This train has come up here to wait. And it's going to wait. It's going to say, well, I need a path. And this train is waiting for this train. So you see these trains wait for each other on a path. But as this train goes up, now something interesting started to happen, which is our main line is blocked. And when the coal train comes back up here, it's going to go, oh no, the main line is blocked. I can't go anywhere. And the coal train not being able to get past will reduce the amount of steel. Now, that will slow down the metal workshop. But another thing that we could do is the metal workshop produces goods. And if we want the port to increase its engineering supplies, we deliver goods to it. If we delivered goods here, we'd increase the amount of engineering supplies. But now our main line is blocked and we cannot do that. So there's something that you can do with this. So we could just add lots and lots of platforms. That's kind of the easy way to do it. Add lots of platforms, add enough space in front of the station for trains to wait. There is also a little cheat that we can do. Now there is a setting that you need to set. So, and I shall just find that setting in the settings, and we shall set it, or rather, not in the settings. Sorry, not in the settings. So I say I find that setting in the settings. You will not find it in the settings. So it's called two-way end of line, and it's not in the settings. So I need to show you something exceedingly complex, which is the game console. Now, this is very, very complex. You don't have to do this. You can totally switch off this and think about something pleasant, like I don't know, like it Buzz Aldrin saying, "Oh, actually, Neil, I've got your keys. I picked them up before we got in the landing craft." There we go. But this setting, YAPF, which is the name of the Pathfinder, Rail First Red Two-Way EOL. And that, if you set that to 1, so that command exactly, that will allow some access to some magic. And by the way, this console is, you access it by pressing, I guess you call it the console key, and this is a weird thing from sort of the dawn of the internet, which is, it was always called tilde, which is the key, I believe, on a US keyboard, to the left of 1 and above tab. But on a UK layout keyboard, it's not. It's actually a backtick on that. So for me, it's a backtick. For you, it might be a tilde. But just try that top left key, below escape, to the left of 1, above tab, whatever your keyboard layout is. And that will show this console. And this you can set that setting. And what that setting enables is the ability to build escape depots, which are very, very useful in FIRS. So build a depot here, and then I'm going to build some special types of signals. So I'm going to build some block signals here. That's, sorry, not here. They're going to build a block signal here. I'm going to convert this. Oh, this is interesting. I need to stop this train. Then I'm going to do some resignaling. I'm going to remove that signal and place a block signal. I'm then going to place some of these. These are exit signals. And I'm going to place exit signals there. Now, if I start that train again, it should not move. So these trains will come there. And I need for this to work, because this is now a block. So what I've done with those block signals, or that block signal, is whereas this was a path originally, And the train said, well, I'm just going to reserve my way through the path. And now it's a block. And they're all saying, well, I can't enter the block. And so I'm going to put this signal here. But actually, we have this additional problem. So this is exactly why. Say this. So this is a block. The reason this train wouldn't enter the block is because this train was here. The reason this train is here is because this train is here. The reason this train is here is because this train is trying to get up here. So you can see how quite a simple problem could actually cause quite a big deadlock. And so that's what this is fixing, or will fix, is this particular combination of signals, which is a block signal on the entrance, exit signals on the station, and a depot, create what's called an escape depot. And what an escape depot does, if you have exactly this set of signals, is when a train sees these exit signals are both red, but this depot has an exit signal in it, which is green. And that makes the Pathfinder say, if you can't get into the station, go into the depot. And that gives your station effectively sort of infinite capacity. That is a good thing. And so that deadlock now will slowly resolve. Now, one thing you do have with this is we converted this section here from path-based to block-based, which means that only one train can be in this section at a time. So this is not the most efficient thing going on here. This is still a bit inefficient, but at least it's more deadlock-free. And so there we go. Little diversion on signalling. I think there's lots of good signalling tutorials out there. They don't have little diversions about the Edwin Aldrin's key-based rescue mission. And so, you can go watch them. They will tell you lots and lots about how signals work. And you can become good at the signals. But if you don't want to do this, you don't want to mess with the settings, you don't want to go and find whatever your backtick or tilde key or whatever opens the console is, you can just add lots of platforms and say, well, I'm not going to have more trains than platforms. And that also works. And the other thing that also works is just saying the trains, well, don't make them full load. And just timetable them. Just so. There we go. That was a lengthy slide into the world of the console. So what else do we need to know about Temperate Basic? This is the last thing. But reader, I lied. Rather well, I just noticed some other things that I should mention. So one other thing in FIRS that's worth paying attention to is, let's say we built a little sort of metro railway in Goddown End. And we want to build this because it's a good idea to have a metro railway. We would, so let's have a station there and maybe a station there. And so just get to build does Chips have passenger stations these days? I think this will probably end up with sort of cargo base. So I just want to make sure I don't catchment area this mysterious thing. And this might give away what I'm going to do. And so let's say we have a little metro train going around in this town. So let's get one of these. Let's have this one. Ooh, we could glue two of those together. Glue three of those together. They're not that expensive. Why not? So here we go. So here we have a little train going about its business in the town. Hopefully the town will grow. They just have a few passengers. This building over here is a hotel. And hotels have really high passenger production. They are a fantastic way to make a lot of money in Temperate Basic. So if we extend our platforms out to here, suddenly we have access to this thing, which is going to give us lots and lots of passengers. So this train currently, which is hardly any cargo in it, is going to go up there. And I think, that's a mail train. That would help if I built the right train. So let's pretend that never happened. So, of course, because I still have engineering supplies set. So let us get rid of all these trains and let's build Westbournes. There we go. So the reason that train was not carrying anything is just because it's only a mail train. But if we start giving, there we go. So that's a useful lesson. Accidental lesson. This is me failing at playing the game. It's been a little while. I'm playing been going for some 40 minutes or so. So let's now send this. So you can see this has 4 passengers, 40 passengers. And then when it goes up here, picking up huge amounts of passengers. And that's because hotels just churn out passengers, and they will churn out even more if you add food and alcohol. So that is that, and that's the hotel, and then we have that. So this would be an okay game. Let's save that. Now, let's abandon that game, because FIRS has more than one economy. So if we wanted a more complex game, we go into FIRS, and rather than temperate basic, we could click Steeltown. And the world opens up at this point. So temperate basic was very nice and simple. There were coal went to steel mills. And steel mills produced metal, which went to a metal workshop, which produced goods, which went to a port, which would produce more engineering supplies. Oh my word, look at all these industries. Now the world is complicated. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to say, well, let's try to find our steel mill. Well, I don't seem to have any steel mills in here. So let's try to find steel. I don't have steel. I have stainless steel. I have steel sections. I have steel sheet. I have carbon steel. This is a Steeltown cargo graph. So those nice simple ones that we had in temperate basic. And suddenly you see carbon steel has 2 different types of furnace that it can be produced in. It goes to 2 different places. So even something as simple as the coal mine, which still exists, produces coal. But coal no longer goes straight to a steel mill. It goes to a coke oven. And then it goes to the furnaces. This is very, very, very addictive. Because completing these chains is much, much harder than completing just the simple chains in temperate basic. So once you've set yourself up with playing temperate basic and you've got some networks working, try playing a Steeltown game. Because this is complicated. And other things with this is, so let's go back to that industry chain. Let's look at our favourite engineering supplies. So engineering supplies is still a thing. And so coal mines and other things, iron ore mines and quarries and limestone mines and potash mines, all take engineering supplies. But now engineering supplies come from a wharf. So we could go find a wharf. Let's do that. So this is a wharf. The wharf doesn't produce 200 tons of 200 crates of engineering supplies. It only produces 120. As if you want engineering supplies, you actually have to get them from, say, an assembly plant. Or let's go back, a wire and section mill or a sheet and pipe mill. So let's go find an assembly plant on this map. Somewhere here. So there's an assembly plant here. So note that it's not producing any engineering supplies yet. And in fact, in order to produce engineering supplies, it wants vehicle parts, vehicle bodies, vehicle engines and tyres. And it's one of these industries where all of them have to be supplied to get the maximum cargo production. But if we were to go back, say, to vehicle bodies, producing a body plant, that wants steel sheets, paints and coatings and glass. So we go back here, and this is a sheet and pipe mill. The sheet and pipe mill wants carbon steel, which comes from a furnace, which wants oxygen, which, hooray, that's actually a base industry. also wants pig iron, which comes from a blast furnace, which needs coke, which comes from a coke oven, which needs coal, which comes from a coal mine. This makes connecting Steeltown an achievement. So you will notice that I haven't done any connection in this tutorial, and that's because I think that 45 minutes is a good length for a tutorial. Maybe a little more of kind of a wind down and a goodbye. If you watch my main game, which is 1815 start, and I don't concentrate totally on vehicles, so you could speed run it a little quicker than this. It takes me approximately 70-something episodes at 25 minutes apiece to finally connect up vehicles. That is why we're not doing it in this tutorial. That is also why that I suggest that is an excellent way to play FIRS, is to connect the full Steeltown chains. And I should leave that there because I think that's a lot to digest. These are quite fast tutorials. And we've gone through some connecting FIRS industries. We've gone for a little bit of very complex signaling. We've built up and then gradually let down Neil Armstrong's moon landing key crisis. And we've given you kind of probably a little bit of a flavour of what happens on the rest of the channel. So there's no shock when you get into the main episodes. They're exactly like this, with total chaos and things going wrong all the time. And it would be lovely to see some people, after watching the tutorial, also enjoy some of 1815 starts and maybe other videos which I produce in the future, which have much of the same, a few tips, little bit of silliness, and obviously lots of OpenTTD, relaxing, pleasant OpenTTD gameplay. And I've hoped you have enjoyed this, and if so, I shall see you elsewhere upon the channel.